Joining me, Ben Jealous, former head of the NAACP, man who pulled off an important progressive primary victory in Maryland, run for governor, and now up against Larry Hogan in the general election. Ben, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you.
All right. So, some people doubted you in the primaries. You came through, won that, and won it fairly convincingly. You got doubters again now in the general election.
People have a short memory. Cenk, we lost every single poll in the primary, and then we won by 10 points.
Yeah. And so right now, Maryland is a Democratic state, about 2-to-1 registration advantage for Democrats. I've been yelling on the show, probably literally, that voters in the Northeast, and I'm going to put Maryland roughly in that category, in blue states, should not trust what they call people calling themselves moderate Republicans. They betray you every time. Susan Collins, Mitt Romney, and the list goes on. But yet, Larry Hogan continues to do well in the polling there in Maryland. So, what's your take on what's going on there, and why the folks who view him that way are making a mistake?
I'm not running against Larry Hogan. I'm running against his record. And on his watch, last 4 years, everything that should have gone up went down. Everything that should have gone down went up. Our schools have fallen in the national rankings. Every year he's been in office. Started off in first, ended up in sixth. Murders are up 42% outside of Baltimore City. When you include Baltimore City, they're up more than 50% statewide. Healthcare costs in the Maryland Health Exchange are up 120% on his watch. Opioid deaths. He said it was a state of emergency. He would declare a state of emergency on his first day in office. He then waited 2 years to do it. Opioid deaths are up 160%. And our job growth is so low that we're dead last in the region in job growth. In fact, if we had the job growth of Virginia right now, we'd have 40,000 more jobs, and Virginia's job growth is below the national average. So we know that our message is the message that voters want to hear. That I'm focused on fully funding our schools, passing Medicare for all. And the issue right now is this: only 7 out of 10 voters know that there's a Democrat in this race. Our polls show that as soon as 10 out of 10 voters know there's a Democrat in this race, our support jumps so high that we will be ahead of him by several points. And so what we're focused on right now is, quite frankly, getting progressives around the country, around the state, to help fund our campaign. Average donation to Friends of Ben Jealous last quarter, $42. Our support only comes from individuals. We don't take money from corporate PACs or corporations of any kind. And so what we know is that we've got to get our ads up on air, and more of them. The last 2 weeks we can close this. That was the period when O'Malley overtook Ehrlich. It was the period when Hogan overtook Brown. And we know that we can win this the same way that we won the primary. We're building a larger ground army than he is. We already have 5 times more organizers on the ground than the party had on election day 4 years ago. And so, having built our ground army, we now got to get our ads up on air. And we're asking for the help of folks around the country to get that done at benjealous.com.
So, Ben, he seems to have $9 million more in his campaign than you do. Yeah. Where's all that money coming from?
Pharmaceutical companies, the Koch brothers, frankly, a lot of developers. He is a country club developer, if there ever were one, and there's a lot of those folks funding him. And frankly, incumbents in governor races just get a lot of people lining up to give them money because they tend to be the most transactional races, most transactional statewide races. Our money, again, comes from individuals, comes from trade unions, comes from small businesses. 99% from individuals, 1% from small businesses and trade unions. And that's what we need. We need campaigns that are of the people, for the people, by the people. And we need, frankly, leaders who are clear that passing Medicare for all is not a partisan issue. It's a people issue. Taking on the pharmaceutical companies is not a partisan issue. It's a people issue. Fully funding our schools is definitely not a partisan issue. It's a people issue. He's tried to make those partisan issues. I've been very clear that this is about the people. This is about getting a better deal for all of us. He takes money from the pharmaceutical companies. We're taking on the pharmaceutical companies.
So, Ben, what frustrates me is that is the press, honestly, because taking money from the Koch brothers is not a moderate position. Taking money from the pharmaceutical companies and from local real estate developers, et cetera, is not a moderate position, and doing them favors is not a moderate position. But almost every article I've ever read about Larry Hogan, just overwhelmingly moderate, 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 moderate. I mean, I get it. He once or twice criticized Donald Trump, but that's to me that's not a moderate. It's all in your actions, as you were stating earlier. So, what do you think is going on with the press? Is it that they're just desperate to find any Republican that they can give compliments to?
Quite frankly, in our state, when you get the support of the teachers, and I've won the endorsement of teachers all across the state in an 8-way primary, I got 85% of their vote, it means that you lose the support of the Washington Post. The Washington Post has a heavy bias towards Hogan. They always have. That's their thing. I get it. We just got to move on. What we know is that, again, everything that should have gone up went down, everything that should have gone down went up. He has not been good for our state. Almost 70% of the people will tell you they are not better off now than they were 4 years ago. They like him, but they're not better off. And that's why it's so easy to convince voters to back me once they know who I am. We were in the debate, which he lost solidly. I mean, he just did terrible in the debate. I gave him 5 minutes, Cenk, 5 minutes to explain his plan to get our schools back to first in the country, because they've fallen every year that he's been in office. He couldn't do it. The man has no plans. And the people of Maryland know that we have to get our healthcare costs under control, fix our schools, and quite frankly, as more and more voters know that I'm in this race, we win them to our side. 7 out of 10 do. As soon as we get to 10 out of 10, we'll be in front of them. But in the meantime, we all got to remember, the polls have been wrong repeatedly. They were wrong in Maryland in 2014. They were wrong nationally in 2016. They were wrong in my primary. I started off in 4th place. I ended up in 1st place by 10 points. I lost every poll going into it. And so, as we tell our organizers all across the state, I was with 50 of them today, and our volunteers, when we show up, Democrats win in Maryland. Last time we won the governorship was 2010. We turned out more than 1 million voters for our side. When the Republicans won in 2014, they didn't even cross 900,000 votes. They got 885,000. So how does that happen? How does a guy win in a party that can't even turn out 900,000 voters for their side, in a state where the other side can turn out 1 million and has done so many times? Simply put, Republicans win when Democrats don't show up. And so as an organizer, the way I won the primary is the way that I will win this general. We put together a large ground army. We're asking folks to volunteer. All across the state, we have 25 offices open. Folks can go there 10 to 8 any day of the week. You go to benjealous.com, you click volunteer, you'll see a list of the offices. Just drop in, grab a call sheet, grab a walk list, help put signs together. There's a job for anybody who has time to volunteer. And similarly, go to benjealous.com, click contribute. You can give this race wherever you are. We need your support. We are funded by like-minded people across the country and across our state. We're fine with that. That's how you don't have to take money from corporations, don't have to take money from the Koch brothers, don't have to stoop in the way that my opponent does.
So we'll have those links down below if you're watching this later on YouTube or Facebook. Really easy to click. Just check it out and see if you want to get involved. That makes all the difference for uncorrupted candidates who don't take those corporate PAC money, as Ben does not. And you're right about the polling. And I did a defensive polling earlier in the program on the Young Turks. But what I explained was it depends. It depends on who they're polling. And the mistake they made in your primary, the mistake they made in the Michigan primary and Bernie upset Hillary Clinton, the mistake they made in the Trump-Clinton race, and the one that just happened in Florida with Andrew Gillum, same thing. He was polling in 4th, came in 1st, is they poll likely voters. Those are the people who used to vote in the past, but they do not capture the energy of an uncorrupted candidate. They do not capture the energy of a progressive candidate who gets a lot more people to show up. That's why the volunteering, the phone banking makes such a huge difference. And so I think that that's what they might be getting wrong again in the general election in Maryland. And it's based on facts and reason and logic, not just on hopeful thinking. We've seen it happen over and over again. So, but I want to end on this question. So you mentioned that only 7 out of 10 people know that there's a Democrat in the race. That seems bizarre. How could they not know that there's a Democrat in the race? So I got to ask you, has the Democratic Party backed you enough here? As I see some Democratic legislatures in the state seem to be against the idea of campaigning against Larry Hogan, which is unbelievable to me.
We need the Democratic Governors Association to come into this race. The RGA has funded about $7 million of negative ads attacking me. The only reason they make a massive investment in attack ads is because they're scared, and they keep on doing it. Steve Phillips wrote in The Nation magazine, and it's true, we're the third easiest state to flip in the country. If you just look at the number of drop-off Dems, those are presidential voters who typically don't show up in the gubernatorial, the small percentage of them needed to flip this and take back this seat right before, take back this governor's seat right before redistricting. If they just spent 1 or 2% of the money they're spending nationwide in our state, we would flip this state. And so it's time, quite frankly, for the National Party to wake up and realize that we can flip this and we can do it quickly. The last 2 weeks in our state, again, that's when O'Malley overtook Ehrlich. That's when Hogan overtook Brown last time. And it still would be right on time for the National Party to decide, hey, the RGA apparently is pretty scared. Let's just put some dollars there and see what happens. It can make all the difference.
All right, everybody check out benjealous.com for one of the strongest progressives in the country and the first ever gubernatorial candidate for the Just Democrats. Ben Jealous, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Jen.
Thanks for watching this free clip of Rebel Headquarters. Don't forget to become a TYT member today for more exclusive content. Join now at tyt.com/join.